A lot of us have old gaming consoles lying around and don't know what to do with them. Hi folks, it's Falcon. Here's 10 things you can do with your old consoles. Just a quick little disclaimer. This is stuff you can do if you don't happen to want to just play them as is. Because that's not only an obvious thing to do, but a just fine, completely good thing to do. This is just other stuff, other ideas. Number 10, did you know that you can pretty easily make the original Xbox into an emulation machine? Depending on which model of Xbox you use, you maybe even don't have to do any hardware modifications at all to it. Now, I'm not going to say that it is the simplest thing in the world, but it's also definitely not the most complex. There's a lot of guides out there for doing a soft mod to the Xbox, and doing a soft mod doesn't prevent you from running original Xbox games on the Xbox. It simply gives you an alternate boot to an interface that allows you to do a lot more. Emulation is just one of the things you could do if you soft mod your console, but I'm gonna go ahead and say probably one of the best things. There's also like a homebrew community of games that have been made for the original Xbox by people who just like the original Xbox, and you have to soft mod it to play those as well. But being able to play every game on basically the Nintendo 64 and every console before it, I mean, that's pretty cool too. I mean, you could probably also use similar processes, put Netflix on various older consoles as well. I don't know. Number 9, now a lot of people who are considering just like throwing out their game console or taking it to GameStop and seeing if they'll give you a few bucks for it, sometimes do something that I would consider a bit brash, especially if they're on a trajectory to ever become a homeowner or renting a place that they could actually do some kind of projects in. Because you could make just an absolutely wild gaming cabinet and set up a game room for yourself that's just got everything in it. In theory, making a gaming cabinet that displays proudly all of the consoles you've ever owned sounds like a daunting task, but it actually isn't. It's really just a bunch of wood arranged in a grid with some lights wired into it. I'm not saying that's easy or that doing it is like something to just brush off, like, oh, big deal. But I am saying it's not such a daunting task that you shouldn't consider it. And even if you don't end up playing every single one of them, it is a way to kind of connect with your past and see things from your life, which is actually not a bad thing at all. Number 8 is recycle it. Now, there are more than a couple of ways to recycle it. There's a few sites that you can actually sell your gaming consoles to, and I'm pretty sure some of the stuff gets recycled and probably some of it gets resold, like Cash for Gamers or Declutter. But if you actually genuinely want to make sure that your gaming console is recycled, there's a program by the Consumer Technology Association called Greener Gadgets that has a recycle center locator for a place near you that can handle electronics. And they actually work specifically with all of the companies so that the materials used to make your devices go back and get used in manufacturing and avoid all of the nasty stuff that happens in the gathering of resources that we use to make electronics, which is grim if you've ever looked into it. Number 7, you could trade it in early for a new console. Now, this obviously requires you to take action within a fairly narrow window. In order to trade in a console before it's lost its value, it has to still be valuable, which means maybe like pretty still in the middle of the console cycle, so there is some element of sacrifice in trading it in early, to be fair. But if you start hearing rumors about, say, a PS4 Pro coming out and there hasn't been an announcement, that might be the time to trade in your PS4. Get all the cash that you can before it goes down in value, and then sit on that cash till the PS4 Pro comes out. And that's obviously a very specific example, and one that brings in the benefit of hindsight. In reality, your ability to even do this really rests on you just keeping your eyes open and knowing what's going on with gaming. Which, just gonna go ahead and say, a good time to subscribe to GameRanks and click the notification bell. Number 6, use the console as a case or a dock, as is the case with a lot of very cool projects that have been done over the years. For instance, a year ago, Reddit user Tetzan777 posted a Nintendo 64 that they had converted into a Nintendo Switch dock. And let me just go ahead and say, I love that. But it's not just there, you can take old game consoles and use them entirely just as a case for building a PC in. For instance, a gentleman by the name of Pedro Mateus converted an Xbox 360 into a fabled Steam box. And another user by the name of Paintball1551 built a very beefy PC inside an original Xbox case. And frankly, these are all cool ideas in my opinion. Number 5, this is less an amazing thing you can do with your old console and more a mandatory thing you should do with your old console should you decide to do something that may end in it being in someone else's hands. If you do plan on trading in or selling your PlayStation 4, for instance, you definitely need to record the serial number off of that console. Because let's say you lose your password, you need that serial number in order to recover the password, which is very irritating actually. Still an actual requirement though, so definitely do that. Another thing to do is factory reset your console, whether it be a PS4 or an Xbox One, or anything. Just anything you plan on giving away that you have recorded data to at any point that may have passwords on it, or give some person access to an account somewhere. Just totally factory reset, just get rid of everything on it. It's 2019 and I feel like it shouldn't merit a full explanation. If there is data on a hard drive that you're giving away, delete it. Period. Number 4, if you plan on selling it, do a little browsing around for the actual pricing of the console, because if you just think, it's probably not worth much, you may end up getting ripped off. I'm not going to say that you're just going to magically become rich off selling your very old game console, but it may be better to put it on eBay or even Craigslist when you consider what GameStop might give you for an older console. Now that's not to say you shouldn't maybe call them up and see what they'll give you. It may end up saving you a lot of time. You may end up being able to get the amount of money for it that you thought you would. But actually do a little research. I think that it would really benefit you, considering you're talking about something where the price is really dependent on the buyer. And to have some sort of a standard, some sort of a piece of information that might direct you, that's just always helpful. Number 3, you could use its parts to make something just totally off the wall. Now that could mean adapting a PS2 controller to work in like NES games or something, I don't know. Or you could just totally break the mold and do something that has nothing to do with gaming, like some people have done, making PS2, PS3 controllers into remotes for RC cars, for instance. In some cases, robots end up being controlled by various old game controllers. If you've ever been to a robot building event, you'd notice a lot of people end up using those, like Xbox controllers, for instance. Another thing I see people use Xbox controllers for, just various other things that simply need control. Like if you're a streamer, like somebody streaming more than just games, like you have several cameras, you might be able to wire up the Xbox or even use software to map the Xbox controller to act as a camera switcher. I mean, there's a lot of pretty wild stuff you can do with game controllers. A fairly simple piece of machinery is fairly adaptable if you know what you're doing. Number 2, and this one's a particularly good one, I think, you can donate your game console and games to a charity that might either donate them themselves and get some money in order to help them with whatever charity work they do, or, for instance, some charities work explicitly in trying to give some form of entertainment to people who just flat out don't have it normally. For instance, kids in hospitals. Like the Game Changer charity brings games to kids that are very sick in hospitals and could obviously be doing something that is a lot more fun than sitting in a hospital getting better or being taken care of. The other charities of this nature like Extra Life, Child's Play, in the UK there's Get Well Gamers, and just to be completely frank, that is a wonderful thing you can do for somebody who doesn't have a great situation going on on right now. There's other charities like Stack Up that do the same thing, but for troops out deployed in various locations, sending games out to combat zones, to humanitarian missions, or people recovering in military hospitals, which let's give a definite bit of consideration for that. People who are recovering in military hospitals are usually injured, and gaming is a very good way of distracting yourself from that. And finally, number one, if none of that is really what you plan on doing, if you'd rather do something that's much more present in your own life, if you know somebody who you think it might be good to get into gaming or would like to get into gaming or maybe doesn't have the money to have the latest stuff, let's say you've got a friend or a cousin or a nephew, a niece, just give it to them. I promise you that is going to be worth it every single time, because if it's something they want, their face will light up. What do you do with your old gaming consoles? Leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and if you like this video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.